think if you are wanting to be a high performance coach, then it is a lifestyle, and you have to give yourself the time to be able to do it. Because again, I'm just speaking for myself in that my day is high jump. My day is track and field. From the time that I wake up and the time that I go to sleep.
Fantastic.
It's track and field and 98% high jump. Yeah, so you need to give yourself time, and that time is also fair to the athletes. So my name's Alex Stewart. I am the coach of Brandon Stark and Eleanor Patterson. And I'm also currently employed as the National High Jump Coach for Athletics Australia. Some other athletes that I've coached in the past include Niraj Singh Randawa of Malaysia, who's the national record holder with 2 meters 30. And I also coached another Malaysian, Lee Hupway, for about 2 to 3 years. And at the time, he jumped to 28 with me.
Budget. Do you think you can get away without necessarily paying the coaches, or how could we do it on a limited budget? Well, even informally.
Look, it can be done in what is not necessarily a high performance environment. I know we talk about high performance environments being, fantastic tracks and, amazingly kitted out weight rooms and medical support staff and, all the bells and whistles. It can be done without this. You need a track. They're all the same, in my opinion. You need a weight room, which has your essential equipment that you need. It doesn't need to be anything flash, but you need a platform, you need a squat rack, you need some boxes and some med balls and some supplementary equipment. And you need a reasonable physio, and you need a reasonable massage therapist. If you have those things, that is enough, in my opinion. Anything that you can put on top of that is a bonus. I coach someone who's going to win an Olympic gold medal or win a world championship gold medal, then I've got to know what that end product looks like. So I've got to find who the best people are, and I've got to find out what their daily training environment looks like, what the coach looks like, what the communication looks like, so on and so forth. I wouldn't say that football supports track and field in any way.
Yeah.
In most of the time, we're competing for the same talent.
It's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. Look.
Sorry, just quickly on that too.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
What's kind of become interesting in the last few years is that we now have a fully professional women's netball league, as well as a fully professional women's Australian rules football league. So we're now seeing an increasing amount of women starting to move away from track and field. As I could say that everybody who I sought out to learn from, I would now class as a very good friend as well.
Terrific.
And that's because I believe that the kind of the mentor-mentee relationship should be quite equal in ways that information are exchanged.
In the room, because we've all had experiences where we've developed great relationships with coaches. And then of course there's loyalty to coaches, and there's the whole ecosystem built around that training group. What is your take on a scenario where maybe an individual or coach has reached the ceiling of their ability, but yet there's a reluctance for either the athlete to move or the coach to kind of open them up to that kind of collaboration you're talking about? You'll be forgiven. It's a Saturday night. We won't remember any of this after tomorrow.
No. It's fine. It's I think it's a question that can, well, it's an answer that can take many forms, like if depending on which perspective you take on.
Give us the difficult truth. We love difficult truth.
Well, I'll talk through the specific example that you and I discussed, because honestly, it's all the truth. It's all what happened. It's all what I did. And if anyone wants to say anything about it, then that's fine. They can say it.
Good story. Good story.
It is what it is.
It seems quite a remarkable scenario that was going on here. I wasn't aware that wasn't like you went in there and said, right, we're taking her away from you now. That's it. So there seemed to be some sort of support in there. So that was that's quite a remarkable story. So
Stephen, building on that, Sotomayor mentioned, and again it was a language barrier, but he mentioned that centralized coordination of training, and he mentioned that they had that system as well, that you reported everything. And I get the impression maybe it was the communist cultural thing, that everything was taken care of from head office, and it didn't matter if you're a parochial coach who brought you to X level of success. You agreed, you signed up to the centralized system. A lot of people don't agree with that, but it obviously worked for some of the best Cuban athletes particularly in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah, well, I mean, no one was trying to impose on anything on them. It was just purely saying, if you want help, tell us what you want help with, and we'll give it to you. The Australian Institute of Sport, and probably most people are aware of what it was in its glory days, essentially, which were, I'd say probably majority of the 90s was where the AIS was at its strongest. Recent administrations have decided to steer the AIS away from what it was. And if we're talking particularly about track and field, there are currently no resident athletes at the Australian Institute of Sport, and they also do not employ any coaches.
Wow.
Which is a far cry from what it was during its heyday in the mid to late 90s, where there were probably 5 to 6 full-time employed coaches, and there would have been something in the vicinity of 20 to 25 scholarship athletes, and maybe about 15 of those would have been on residence.
So how big an impact do you think it was to have the guys living together, training together? I mean, it's obviously a big surge in funding pre-Sydney 2000.
Well, I think it had a huge impact. Through January, we did a block of like where we'd be doing 8 sets of 2, and trying to sit in what would be probably like an 80% of a 1 RM type weight, and then trying to move that weight faster 16 times. Prep, for the most part, we do step up on a 30 centimeter box. And just FYI, I don't get my guys to do a knee drive on a step up. For me, the focus of the step up is knee extension and hip extension. So I just don't see, personally, I don't see the point. So we'll do do 30 centimeter step up, which say, for example, Brandon can do, if we do 2s or 3s, he's around 160 kilos, 165 kilos on both legs. And then we will do like a drop and hold, a single leg drop and hold. So we might do, so say that the step ups is 3 reps each leg. So we do those single leg drop and hold off the 30 centimeter box with a 20 kilo bar. So which might be 3 to 5 reps on each leg. And then we might go and do something like a single leg med ball throw up. And again, something like 3 to 5 reps. And typically that whole group will be 3 to 5 sets. Another one I forgot to mention with the eccentric quad is, does anyone know Spanish squats? So we'll,
Oh, I don't know Spanish squats. It must be
so
very different than the Irish squat. Paul can tell you about the Irish squat, but go on. I've heard of Bulgarian squats we were talking about this morning in the gym. Just
but so Spanish squats, awesome for patella tendon injury prevention, strength, great for quad strength. But we might do it with the boys can do it with 10 kilo plate across their chest. Eleanor will typically do 5 kilos, or sometimes we do it no weight, but we'll have an arm fully extended as we go back. Specific prep but my general prep will only last maximum of 4 weeks, never longer. But that's probably more relevant to older athletes as well. Definitely younger ones, you need to go a little bit longer. So general prep, 4 weeks, only 1 per season. The initial specific prep will be the longest of the season. Depending on where the major championship sits in the year, it might be something like major championship, domestic calendar. For us, Asian calendar is a consideration as well. But the first specific prep might be something like 12 to 18 weeks. And then so we'll go through a phase of lifting on the heavier side. So as I said earlier, we don't really like push for the heavy weights anymore, but for the purpose of this, lifting on the heavier side. So typically in kind of 80-90% type ranges, and get to the point. For me, it's really based on feel and numbers I'm seeing and movements I'm seeing, and also what's going on the track. Then we get to a point where the lifting will become maybe about 6 weeks before the first comp, where depending on the lift, typically might be 30 to 60% of max, if you like. So really not much weight at all, but looking just at bar speed. Let's move it as quick as you can. Well, you can seek out your better coaches. And so I talked about, so the people I sought out, how receptive they were to me reaching out. That's available to anybody. Just send a message. If you want to know something, find somebody and send a message. You'd be surprised at the response you'll get. I've actually never had anyone not respond. So seek out your better coaches and ask them. You haven't done anything wrong by asking a question.
Yeah. Just pick it up. Don't text. Baby, are you up? Don't text. Yeah. Just pick it up.
I believe that specialization comes through not specializing. if you prefer, if you like, and by that I'm a believer in the multi-event approach. because it gives an amazing reference point for the athlete later in their career. I believe in multi-event. I believe in multi-sport for kids. But within that, if the kids like high jump, then let them high jump. Because the reason that most kids do sport is because they like it and they like to compete. So give them the thing that they like and then put all the other stuff in beneath it or around it. But the thing that I see too often in Australia is kids that just do high jump, and they do a lot of high jump because they like it and because the coach lets them high jump, but they can't do anything else. So what do? We high jump.
Yeah, what concerns me as well is that there's this overemphasis on competition, Alex. Even my 8-year-old daughter, she was at Little Athletics on Friday night. And the structure of Little Athletics is they rock up and they compete at high jump, compete at 70 meters, 100 meters, 400 meters. And there's no warm up. I mean, in the group, oh God, I gotta be careful here what I say, but it's fun for these guys. They like a bit of competition, but I'm just trying to imagine if you start at 6, 7, 8 years of age and you rock up to training every once a week or twice a week and you just compete. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's the ideal approach. Whereas I'd much prefer if they did more rounded kind of fundamentals of movement, speed, strength, fitness, without the competitive element. Certainly for under 13s, anything below under 13. I think Stefan made that point as well. They don't really compete until they're teenagers.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. No. Well, I agree on that front. But the thing I see here, and particularly with young teenagers that you get, is they've just done high jump, like I said, high jump. Oh, okay. I've stagnated. How do I get better? Oh, I need to lift weights. So now I'm going to lift a lot of weights and I'm going to do high jump. And so it's high jump, weights. Oh, I've stagnated again. What do I do now? I lift more weights and I high jump more. Oh, now I'm broken. What do I do?
To the extent that you could take a whole season, 9, 10 months of not jumping, high jumping at all, and still potentially improve your personal best purely based on your conditioning prep. That's a bit extreme, I know, but it's just very, very much a counter to all the questions being about high jump technique. Whereas, I mean, Sotomayor didn't have the perfect technique. Barshim doesn't have the perfect technique. Adrian O'Dwyer, the Irish record holder, 230, had, in my opinion, an appalling technique. So there's lots of examples of poor techniques where, you know, when they put their foot down, it's the pogo stick, it's their elastic strength is phenomenal. So personally, I might be wrong. I don't believe the technique is as important as many people think it is.
Yeah,
It
well,
was interesting. Sorry, Alex. It was interesting just to add on to his point there, and you can add then see the thing. Deirdre brought up last week conditioning, definitely yes, before you even start. But she said that you can get an awful lot out of functional conditioning, i.e., it's different to doing in the weight rooms the actual the functional jumping side that's conditioning the body too. So that's just interesting from our talk last week. So Alex, I wonder what you think of that. Is it just pure all the gym, or do you have to jump as well to get that actual functional
oh,
conditioning
you do.
too?
There has to be the specific side of conditioning, no doubt. So I had access to all these brilliant coaches. You know, some of them was when I was, you know, between the ages of 15, 16, 17, 18. So I didn't really know what was going on in my life. But then I got to a certain point and I realized after, as much as I thought I was trying to do the best thing to jump far, that I didn't give myself a chance. I gave myself no chance because I didn't take my sleep seriously enough.
Sleep.
I didn't take my diet seriously enough. I didn't take my recovery seriously enough. You know, like a lot of young people I got a day off. Oh, let's do as much as I can on that day off. I can work a part-time job. I can go and see somebody. I can, I can play tennis with my mates or whatever. I can go to the beach. All poor choices. Not all of the time are they poor choices, but if you're doing them all the time, poor choices. If you want to be a championship performer, if you want to be a medalist, then you must set up your life to enable that. And you need to be prepared to ask yourself the hard questions.
I mean, Deirdre Ryan, she just threw in randomly. You remember this, Olivia? And then I spent 4 years in Germany. She was like 24. Who does that? And she didn't even emphasize it. I mean, if she's watching this, 4 years in Germany. I mean, I moved to England, right? I moved to Liverpool when I was 19, 20, and I thought that was a big deal, but it was like a 40-minute flight. Moving to Germany, she didn't speak the language. How did she fund it? How did she adopt? I mean, it's such a massive, massive sacrifice.
Well, I love that approach, and it frustrates me to no end when I see people that don't look further than their own suburb. Oh, there's a coach there. That's probably the best I can do. No, if you really want to be the best, scour the globe and find out who is the best person for you to train with and move there. Where they are going to have regular competitive stimulus. Because without it, I don't think that you can contend for a medal at a major championship. Like we will create systems like Martin talked about in training of creating handicaps and 2-bar systems and all that kind of jazz. But when it gets down to it, competing against the best people is 100% necessary. And having coached Brandon since he was 15 years of age, I've seen all those phases that he's gone through. I've seen him from a 15-year-old boy who has no idea about the world at all to a man with a wife, setting up a home and a career, with his own thoughts and opinions on the world.